the fuck?
That was pretty cool.
Alright, sorry. I learned something new. Apparently, I can tell my phone to start recording, and it starts recording. That's new technology to me. But either way, today's topic is first starting out with something that we were talking about last night. We actually get to bullshitting about this stuff a little bit before we record it. And it's not like this one is about false expectations. First one I'm going to bring up is on media. How much you see these people living perfect lives, and they're not as perfect as they seem. The type of person that posts how well their relationship is doing, how well life is going, probably a million vacation pics, celebrities that, you know, we all kind of envy in our own respects, and what that can do to somebody who feels like their life is not up to par with that.
Right, and a lot of this, you know, when you think about the internet and the youth of today, their access to the internet, and looking at these celebrities and looking at these people that are out there projecting these perfect lives using filters, and the younger generation, especially your teenagers, man, they see that as reality. And the truth is, it's an unachievable goal. These people are scripting false narratives for their lives and projecting it that this is what their everyday life is, that they have no struggles, that life is perfect, and it's just not a reality.
There are other things to idolize rather than perfection. I think it's okay to strive for perfection in an imperfect world, but understand that it's not a reality. The comparison, though, from these idols that you look up to can also go into your parents growing up. And at a certain age, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't know about you, but growing up, I thought, you know, you and mom were like Superman, Superwoman, you can do anything. And I was always safe. How did you feel about your parents? Was that...
Well, it was the same thing, and I'll lead into that with, you know, I'm not gonna claim to be Superman, but I will say you've never seen the two of us in the same room together.
Motherfucker. It's not the first time I heard that, and it's not gonna be the last.
The reality, folks, the reality is this. Growing up, we as young people look at our parents and we think they have life all figured out. They have all the answers. They're our protection. They're our security blanket. We need that discipline. We need to believe that somebody is in charge and has all the answers. The reality is you start growing up and you start entering adulthood and realize that they're still trying to figure life out too. Even, you know, I've raised basically 8 children right now, and I don't claim to have any of the answers. You are working things on the fly. You're figuring it out as you go. There is no manual to life. We talked in our last video about some struggles and talked about struggles individually that we had gone through. Struggles don't stop. And there's never a point in your life where you have all the answers. People that claim to have all the answers or present that their life is perfect is an overcompensation for something they're really lacking and failing at, in my opinion.
Right. And that would be hard, just thinking about it, raising 8 children, because I am still, you know, I don't have a child, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of us are lost in different ways. Like, there can be things you're pretty knowledgeable on, but there's so many things, you know, possibilities that you're not ready for, things you're going to learn along the way, whether it's in your own life or in your children's life, raising a child. I'm sure there's all sorts of new things to figure out, probably with each child, because no one is the same.
Everyone is different, and the thing is, you think parenting stops when your children reach a certain age, move out on their own, have their own families. The reality is parenting is just kind of beginning at that point.
Wayne.
Yeah, we kind of live in a flight pattern. So the reality, folks, is you never stop being that parent. They get out on their own. They see that there are issues that they are going to have to deal with in parenting their own kids, and they look to you for advice. They look to you for answers, and guidance is about all you can do. You can give them guidance from experiences you've been through. Oftentimes, they say with age comes wisdom. I don't believe that to be fully true. But with age does come experience. And if I've experienced something and I've figured my way out through it, and I see something similar starting to happen, then it's easy to kind of predict outcome and try to steer them away from that. Unfortunately, at that point in time when the kids realize that you are not the all-knowing, all-powerful, they start seeking their own answers, and your advice becomes less valid to them.
Right.
Even though it may make sense. As adults, we're all finding our own path. Now, with most of my adult life behind me, I'm still seeking paths. I'm still seeking answers. Yes, there are areas that I feel I became pretty expert in throughout my careers, but the answers still aren't all there. We still have issues that we face that we're trying to figure out. How do we get through this?
I think the moment you stop learning is the moment that you're not trying anymore, because there's too much to learn.
Exactly. A day without gaining knowledge is a day lost.
There's something you used to tell me growing up. Trying to think of it word for word, but I can't. The man who thinks he knows all actually knows nothing.
And that's a fact. If somebody's presenting that they know all, they're just proving their ignorance.
Yeah.
Nobody knows everything. Nobody has every aspect of life down perfectly. Pulling back the veil, I know my oldest daughter still to this day talks about some of the great lessons she learned in life growing up with a single dad. I was a single parent for several years.
That plane's pretty loud. Probably.
Another flight pattern.
I think we're good.
But anyway, she'll talk about lessons that she learned and things that she appreciates that I did for her as a single parent. The part that a lot of people don't realize is during a lot of those years, something that the children never knew, my parents never knew, the sacrifices that were made. There were days I would go 2-3 days without eating.
Wow.
Because I could not afford enough food to feed the whole family. So I would make sure that my children ate. Sometimes it was creating a fun atmosphere. We're going to do something cool tonight, guys. And I would be able to afford a block of cheese, and I'd melt it down in the microwave and make it a swirly, sweet little cheese plate. But I made it exciting for them, and they never saw the behind-the-scenes struggles of, man, am I going to be able to keep the lights on this month? Am I going to be able to keep the phone running? Those things are all hidden, and the kids don't see them. What they see is strong dad. He takes care of everything. I'm taken care of. And later, there comes a point in time where that veil or that curtain has to be pulled back, and you have to start relating some of those struggles and teaching life lessons. The veil's pulled back not to expose weakness, but to expose strength. And here's the strength it takes to be able to do what we're doing, and to give those children the knowledge that yeah, life isn't going to be easy. I am going to have to make some hard choices. I am going to have to work at what I want to do.
I think that that is a huge topic in this whole talk. I wanted to say that as people, we should really focus on switching what we idolize, especially now. There's a lot of people who idolize this perfection, and as a parent or even as a person, you think that showing these vulnerabilities will make you be seen as lesser. I don't think that should be the truth. I think that's the farthest from the truth. One of the things that I've learned, and I've learned it a lot on plenty of occasions on different subjects, is that people who have what you want, that are selling you a plan or trying to teach you how to achieve these things, one, they're not going to tell you everything they know. And the reason why they're not going to tell you everything they know is because if you know what they know, they have lost their value in their own eyes. They have lost their value, and if you can do exactly what they can do, you're a competitor at that point. So they're going to give you maybe some of what they know, but they're not going to give you all that they know.
Well, that's true, and I've used the phrase a million times with you, your brothers, your sisters. I've said, I taught you all you know, but I did not teach you all I know.
Right.
And that's on certain subjects because, like you said, once the student becomes the master has no relevance.
Right.
I had an uncle that threw it out to his 3 boys. He was a boxer, and he taught them all how to fight. And he made it plain and simple to them, because there usually comes a point in the young man's life when he wants to challenge the father. And he said, the day you can kick my ass is the day you're on your own. And not a single one of his sons ever challenged him. I wonder why that was. I think he sent the message very clear. When you no longer need me, I'm no longer going to be here. I know my dad used to say it. I know my grandpa used to say it. When you reach those cocky teen years and start trying to teach them life lessons, they would say, I've forgotten more about life than you know.
Forgotten more than you know.
And the thing is, the word forgotten isn't really accurate there, because the real reality of it is
dormant knowledge.
I have tucked more knowledge away that is not on the forefront of my brain that you have access to if you will only seek it.
Your destinations or your goals can be seen as trophies, because once you achieve them, that's a trophy of yours. But when you guys think about a trophy, like let's say you're in sports or anything you've accomplished, something you have, a certificate or anything that shows one of your accomplishments. When you look at it, I just have a question for you. When you're looking at it, do you think of the accomplishment itself, or do you think of all the late nights, hard days that it took to get there?
Well, I can tell you, I look at awards that I've received. When I was in law enforcement, I keep a book, call it a hero book. You can take it in when you're applying for jobs or whatever, but I've saved these things. And as I flip those pages, I flip to, a thank you letter from somebody that was helped out. And the letter itself has no meaning, because what I think about is all the work it took to earn that.
Right. So the journey.
I think about the journey, the experience. I relive the experience. The trophy's just a memento of that experience.
Think about a movie you've watched before. When you've watched that movie, how excited are you to watch that movie again in a short span of time?
Not very, because I've already lived that journey.
Exactly, but
I know how it ends.
And I know some of you guys will feel the same way about one of your favorite shows or movies. I've wanted to be able to wipe my memory to be able to rewatch something. I've wanted to do that, I would rewatch Sons of Anarchy with a fresh memory.
Oh yeah.
I would love that. Or Spartacus, another great show. But now that it's been done, it's not nearly as exciting. I think that's the importance of creating new goals, because you find these new things and it's okay to revisit your old goals. I went on a little shooting trip recently, and the idea was to head up there, get some practice in with some rifles, and just a 22, an AR. Wanted to shoot my shotgun a little bit, and yeah, it was looking to be a great time. So first things first, we're late. Didn't make it up there as early as we had hoped, and it's a long trip, so it's like a 2.5 hour drive to even get there, which, if you're not fond of being in a car long, that's annoying. So either way, we're late. We start heading up there, and I haven't slept yet because I was so excited to go. I hadn't slept, and I knew I wasn't gonna be up on time if I didn't just stay up. The person I was going with, my brother, he did sleep, overslept. So we ended up taking that drive, and about a little less than halfway through, I start feeling sick to my stomach. Like, absolutely cannot hold in puke. I'm sitting there, we're talking, everything's fine, and then one moment I'm like, dude, I can't talk or I'm gonna puke. So he's just talking, and I'm just, for however long that was going on, we finally pull up into a parking lot because we're gonna stop and give me some nicotine. Yeah, I want to smoke even when I want to puke. First thing that happens, I open the door. He's like, dude, we still got so much of a drive left. If you want to turn around, I understand. Like, it could be a bad day, the weather's not the best, and you're sick. We can turn around, we can do it another weekend. I'm like, no. We come this far, no. So we go in, I get my thing. After puking, I feel hell of a lot better. And I forgot to mention before that, fucking trooper my brother is, he tried to get me, some beef jerky and some Tums to see if that would help out before that whole ordeal had happened. Thank you. If you're seeing this, thank you. That was a solid attempt. But either way, we get down there and we have an absolute blast. We're zeroing in our rifles, we're hitting the target, I'm feeling better. And I was going through a hardship, and that felt good, And as I'm telling this story, you guys are realizing that a little bit more of the story is about the struggle of fucking getting there. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to remember. It's hilarious. And on our way back, we're starving. We go ahead and get some Costa Vida. I get a little salad. He gets a big old burrito plate. I'm not sure exactly what he got, but we're so hungry. This dude is cutting with a plastic knife and cuts through the silver little container with a plastic knife. But yeah, I mean, the destination was to go there and zero in some rifles and shoot some squirrels. But when I tell the story, I'm talking about how on the way there I'm sick. We had to stop. We get beef jerky, we get Tums, anything to help. Doesn't work. I open the door, I puke, and people are looking at me funny. We keep going.
Again, it's the journey. It was the camaraderie. It was the shared hardship that built and solidified even stronger the relationship that you guys have. And at the end, you pull back in at home, mission complete, goal met.
Yeah, and I don't think it would be nearly as fun if these things didn't happen.
Well, exactly. And you take that experience, you post a few pictures on Instagram with you standing holding up a potbelly that you've shot, and you say headshot, and you make it seem like you're world's greatest hunter, but nobody knows the struggle that went into that, how many you had to miss. And I want to step back for just a second. We talk about the images of people on Instagram, the images of these people that we idolize. I want to ask anybody that's listening, have you ever actually met in person someone that you idolized, respected, or thought was a hero, or thought was real cool? I'm going to share an experience. I'm not going to throw the name out. I used to work a lot of security on movie sets when they'd film here in the local area, and was fortunate enough to meet quite a few big name actors. Had lunch with Stephen King, had lunch with Rob Lowe, met Robert De Niro, met Uma Thurman. I mean, all these great experiences. But there was one actor that came into town. Incredible movies. Man, I thought the guy was just the coolest dude ever. He's got this image. He's just so approachable. We get down to the filming, and he requests that the sergeant in charge is his personal security. So that's what he got. And his first order to the sergeant in charge is, nobody approaches me, nobody gets a picture of me. Somebody snapped a picture from a half a block down, and we were ordered to confiscate the camera and pull out the film. The story gets even worse. This actor, the sergeant's wife, was a huge fan. This sergeant shadowed him as personal security for 3 days, 18-hour days, by the way. He's eating lunch with him, eating breakfast with him. He's with him that long. And he just says to the actor, you know, my wife is a huge fan. The actor turns to him and says, you're fired, get me somebody else. Talk about public image, what the public perceives about this actor, and the reality of who he is and what he's about. So sometimes meeting or pulling back the veil on somebody that you have idolized can be devastating.
Right. But with all these things in mind, talking about the bad things that could happen in your journeys, finding good in bad situations, and how important it is to take in the good and the bad with stride and understand that your situation, there is good happening. And this goes into the previous video of, once you're able to recognize some good things, you can make it through just about anything.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're going through a rough time, it's really hard to try to look for or focus on the good. We get wallowed down in self-pity, and it becomes really difficult to even look for anything good.
As we don't get too far into politics, I also won't get too far into religion, because I want these videos to be for everybody. But a lot of people have the questions of asking, like, why, God? Why do bad things happen? Why can they happen to good people? Like, why is it set up that way? Why would you set it up that way? And if you're not looking at it from a religious standpoint, just in general, why do these bad things happen? The description I'm going to give as to why these bad things happen is from a religious standpoint, but you'll also come to understand that from a scientific standpoint, a philosophical standpoint. This makes sense, and you should be grateful that bad things happen. So a guy was talking to God. He had an opportunity to talk to God. And God asked him, how are you doing? And he said, I've had good times, but right now things are really rough. Life sucks. Like, you are hitting me with things that I don't even think I could handle. This is terrible. Why don't you just let me be happy? Why can't I just have good things? And God had replied, I've done that before. I've given the human race nothing but bliss. And what I found was, you guys weren't happy. It was boring. Everything went your way. There was no embarrassment. There was no shame.
No anger.
No anger, no nothing. You were happy. But you weren't content. And the things that fill you full of joy right now were meaningless before the bad things were allowed to happen. So would you rather have this perfect world where everything is perfect and there's no struggle and you just get what you want, your highs that you feel now would be baseline. The happiness would be average. So therefore, there wouldn't be any good. This is kind of a yin and yang type situation.
That's right. How can you experience success if you've never suffered defeat?
Right.
There would be no elation for winning if there was no way you could lose.
Right. This is going to be like a cut in. We've had some interruptions throughout the whole thing. And just want to point out, I'm going to leave it in. That's part of the journey, is the misshapes and the mishappens of all that goes on. So,
and adapting and overcoming.
Yeah, before we click record again, the conversation went a lot like this. Fuck. Okay, I know what we covered. Said that the end conclusion multiple times, and we want to close it off, and we want to do it right. But for the life of me, I just can't think of a good way to end it. And that's where we're at. And rather than, coming up with the perfect plan and, showing you guys the perfect ending, this is the struggle. I have no fucking idea how to end this.
There's no way to plan for what's going to occur during these videos. The airplane flyovers,
the phone call, the
phone call, the dog. Yeah, you just have to take life as it flows and understand that there are going to be interruptions to your journey, and you can choose. We could have at the first flyover went, bag this, let's go inside. Instead, it's like, okay, that's an interruption.
Yeah, you might see us out here on a rainy day with the camera out.
We might be under the gazebo over here on a rainy day.
But ending it with you seeing the struggle of not knowing how to end it. I will leave with at least this though: normalize showing your struggles, and normalize that being what we idolize. That's pretty much. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good conclusion. It's a good thought to be left with.
Absolutely. Stop recording. Okay, that's not how that works. Stop video. Fuck.